day to our viewers. My name is 𝐁𝐔𝐃𝐆𝐄𝐓, and we're here today with no other than the Honorable Minister Susan Rodrigues, Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, for another conversation titled Budget in Focus, where we will be delving into the recently presented Budget 2024 under the theme Staying the Course, Building Prosperity for All. Minister, welcome.
Thank you.
So before we go into your sector, give us your general thoughts on Budget 2024.
So I am very proud of Budget 2024. I'm happy to be associated with this budget, and I think that the theme could not be more applicable. Staying the course, building prosperity for all. And I believe that the content of the budget demonstrates exactly that. And why do I say that? I said a few days ago when I did another interview that the budget is a disciplined one. And what I meant by that is that it is measured in the allocations made, meaning that these investments are all on, or the majority is on capital projects, not on the recurrent side. So it's not a consumption-based budget. It's a budget that the investments are being made in people's lives, in improving people's lives, in raising standard of living, improving the quality of their lives. And when you look at the allocations made under different sectors like healthcare, education, housing, healthcare and education alone account for about 20% of the entire budget. So it's very significant in that those investments are being made in the people of our country. So it's not wasteful spending, it's not consumption based, it's very targeted investments in people. The budget also demonstrates continuity because from the time we took office in 2020, we came into government with a manifesto that proposed projects and policies that would achieve certain objectives, such as the gas to energy project, such as 50,000 house lots, quality health care, building new hospitals, schools, etc. And you know a lot of the promises. We could go on about that. And we see every year a very diligent effort to ensure that all of these projects are accomplished to achieve the objectives at the end. And so that's why this budget demonstrates that continuity. And that's why I said the theme is very applicable. We're staying the course because we made several commitments to the people of our country that we're going to improve their lives by the end of 5 years. And we told them specifically how we are going to do it. And over the last 4 budgets, they can see allocations made to ensure that the promises we made are executed. I think it was Thomas Edison that said, vision without execution is hallucination. So we are very committed and very serious about the promises we made to the people of this country who voted for us, who elected us, and we didn't make false promises. So when people examine our budget, they can see that we are serious about implementation. And implementation was seriously lacking during the last administration. We heard a lot of big promises and bold promises, and we saw a lot of failed promises during the last 5 years. Our government is different, and we are going to ensure that we make resources available to execute our projects and ultimately to improve the lives of people.
Thank you, Minister. And from what you've said, there's planning that is done strategically. All the plans, because I've traveled with you extensively to various parts of the country, and we've witnessed firsthand, how persons' lives have been transformed. Now going into your sector, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about how we talk about the figures, we throw around figures. How does, if I go back to my notes here, how does 78 billion for the housing sector, how does that transform? How does that change the life of Mary Jane, who's living in Tushing, who's eager to start her journey of home ownership? How does that transform her life and speak to her directly?
So that's what I think is ultimately important to people. People want to
Definitely.
know, what does this budget mean for me? What does $1 trillion mean for me? How will this improve my life? And I say to people, this budget does not only improve your life, it improves the lives of your children, of your family, future generations, and all Guyanese across our country, across the hinterland, the coastland, all 10 administrative regions. Going back to what I said earlier, just a few moments ago, when you make commitments to people, you have to ensure you allocate resources to make it a reality. In the first 3 years under the last administration, they made no capital investment in the housing sector. There was zero allocation in the budget towards capital projects. From the time we came into office in 2020, we made allocations for capital works, for new infrastructure, to create 50,000 house lots in 5 years. We started immediately. We came in, we knew what the target is, and we started working immediately. And every single year from 2020, you can see that we have the Ministry of Housing has been supported by the Ministry of Finance and by President Ali to ensure that there are no hindrances to us achieving that target. We cannot set a target and then don't make allocations to make it a reality. So that's the first thing. We've been getting support from central government to ensure that we develop new housing schemes for the allocation of house lots. Now, there have been people that have been waiting for many years, and you know, Janelle, that we've been catching up with that. You know, you have witnessed when we started at the ministry in 2020, when I would have public days, the line would be out the ministry, down Brickdam, and then it started to turn into Camp Street at one time. And the staff became, were very overwhelmed. And that's because people were rushing to get their house lots because they have confidence in our government. And they started to see the Dream Realized Land Allocation program being rolled out. And we've taken that exercise across our country. And so far, we've delivered 30,000 house lots in keeping with our manifesto commitment. Today, that line is much shorter at the ministry, and the demand, the rush is not there. Of course, there are still people waiting because every day we receive new applications, but the fact remains is that we have been making house lots available for people. We have been addressing the backlog, and people can feel confident and they can trust the system and know that we are working to ensure that we deliver more and more house lots. Another 10,000 house lots will be delivered this year. And everybody, young people, women, you've seen the achievements we've made, allocating land to single parents, single women, 40%, 45% last year of the allocations we made went to women. Over 50% went to young people. So that mother in Tushin or wherever that's waiting on her house lot, she can look forward to receiving her house lot. When she does, she's receiving a piece of land that is heavily subsidized by the government of Guyana. It's 90% subsidized for low-income earners. She can see opportunities that we've created that open up access to financing for her to go to the bank and acquire a mortgage to build her home, which would increase her net worth immediately, because from the time you're allocated a house lot and the infrastructure work is done there, or we build new roads or highways, you see the value doubling, tripling, quadrupling in some cases, depending on where you're located. So that significantly improves your net worth. It gives people a sense of security, a sense of responsibility. It allows them to live in communities and neighborhoods that are sustainable, that they can raise their children in a safe and happy place. That's the bigger vision here behind the housing sector. It's not just $78 billion gone to the Ministry of Housing to do infrastructure work. This is how this translates into improving people's lives, giving them a sense of security, a sense of confidence. When you own your own home and you can take control of your own life. So that is very, very important to us, ensuring that we promote home ownership, and it's very important for people and for their families.
Most definitely, Minister. And could you go into some of the other measures? Being allocated a lot is one aspect. You're partly on your way to becoming a homeowner. What are some of the other measures that our budget caters to for persons who have been allocated? What are some of the other measures that the ministry has in place and will be continuing in 2024?
Certainly. So apart from the 50,000 house lots that we promised to deliver, we started very early on to focus on home ownership because we wanted to promote occupancy in areas. And so we started an aggressive housing construction drive. So we started to build homes. We approved several models, low income, middle income, young professional models, so that people can move into a home rather than acquire a house lot and then have the additional stress or burden of finding a contractor and getting financing and so on. So we've started to build homes, and we can't build homes fast enough for people because using scale, we've been able to reduce the costs for these houses. So people know they cannot build a house of that quality for that price if they do it on their own. So naturally, there's been an increase for housing units as opposed to the land alone. And that appetite is insatiable, but we are trying. But apart from that, if you've acquired a land and you want to construct your own home, we've collaborated with the banks, not now, but over the past 3 years, we've collaborated with the banks, and we've seen significantly reduced interest rates in a global environment that is seeing interest rates rise as a result of inflation. Here in Guyana, we have perhaps the lowest interest rates on mortgages in the world. 3.5% is unheard of anywhere else in the world. So there's the rates vary, 3.5, 3.75%, and the banks are competing against each other. And when they do that, the people benefit. So that's one of the other measures. Then during Building Expo, the president introduced a new measure, which is the steel and cement subsidy for new homeowners to help them with their foundation. So this helps as well with the equity payment. So for those who can be approved for a mortgage, can make the monthly installment, but is having some difficulty with the down payment, this coupled with the cost of the land can cover that equity payment. So there are no barriers now for qualifying for a low-income mortgage. And I believe in the case of NBS, there's no down payment is required. The land alone is used as equity. So people have now opportunities that they did not have in the past to unlock financing to build their own homes. Then when you own a piece of land or property in Guyana, you know right away that is collateral. You can take to the bank, you can extend your home, you can improve your home, or you can access a commercial mortgage, a mortgage to finance a business. So the opportunities are endless. We also have other measures that were introduced earlier on, like the mortgage interest relief, which is a deduction that you get back on all of the interest payments you made on your on your mortgage throughout the year. That's a deductible on your income tax payment. So that helps to make it more affordable, especially for working people who pay their taxes, and many other measures. Removing VAT on building materials, on cement. All of these things contribute towards making it more affordable, and therefore making it more accessible for people to become homeowners. And ultimately, that's what we want. Guyana belongs to the people. Guyana belongs to all of us. And owning a piece of land and owning property here brings a tremendous sense of pride to Guyanese. And so I'm very honored to be working in a ministry that provides that type of opportunity to people.
Yes. Undoubtedly, we've seen that those slew of measures have been indeed helping the ordinary Guyanese, and we continue to cater for every income bracket. Now, Minister, shifting the focus a little bit to infrastructure development, because we know that is equally important in this journey of home ownership. We want to show Guyanese what is it we're doing in terms of you're allocated in a scheme, what is in place for them. How has that infrastructure program been going, and what can Guyanese look forward to in 2024?
So in making investments in infrastructure, you've seen a massive allocation in the budget for infrastructure generally. So that comes under, part of that comes under the Ministry of Housing and also under the Ministry of Public Works. So investment in infrastructure is not only in housing schemes. So we are responsible for ensuring that there's infrastructure in housing schemes, new roads, bridges, there's proper drainage, and in the design of our schemes, we ensure that there is space for recreation, for religious organizations, schools, health centers, etc. And also commercial and industrial lands are made available so that people can start businesses, and this can create jobs. And by the way, we've been creating, through the housing sector alone, thousands and thousands of jobs. We've been employing people through the infrastructure program, as well as on the construction of homes. So we are also staying very faithful to the commitment we made to creating 50,000 jobs in 5 years. But infrastructure generally also benefits people who are not in our housing schemes alone. It benefits people wherever they live, where you're taking a new highway. Look at I'm so proud of the Heroes Highway project. I live on the East Bank. The people on the East Bank are so happy now and so relieved that they now have 4 lanes additional that they did not have before. Just the East Bank Road was there, the public road, and now you have 4 additional lanes on the East Bank going all the way to Diamond. And we have already commenced the 3rd phase from Diamond to Busby Dam. And we've recently announced that we are going all the way to Timeri. This will bring tremendous relief to the people on the East Bank, saving thousands of productive hours that people can be spending at work, or that people can be spending with their families. So all of this improves quality of life and improves standard of living. So infrastructure work is not just about building roads, it's what is the impact of that on my life? How does this make my life easier? And that's how it's done. When you build the 300 megawatt plant at Wales and you cut electricity by 50%, that's how investment in infrastructure improves lives. So that's why this budget is so critical, because it's staying the course in ensuring that these bigger objectives are met. So people talk about infrastructure or they're building roads. Yet, when we travel across this country, the number one complaint in every single community is the state of roads. Everybody complains about the state of their roads if it's not finished to the final level, because people are working, earning, improving their lives, buying a car, and they want to drive on a road that is acceptable to them, not in potholes and so on. So they want investments in infrastructure that ultimately improves their lives. So that is the importance, and that is the real impact that investment in infrastructure has on people. So people have to look at it from that macro perspective and know that in 2025, I'm going to pay 50% less electricity. Maybe I wanted a bigger increase this year, but guess what? I'm not going to be saddled with twice the amount of electricity that I have to pay for in 2025. I can rest assured that a lot of these initiatives will see it becoming more affordable for me to live on a monthly basis. And we've continued to remove VAT from many, many things. You know that VAT was placed on electricity, on water. We removed those, making it more affordable for basic utilities. In budget 2024, we remove VAT from sporting equipment because we're supporting youths. So all of these initiatives make it more affordable for people to live. The government continues to subsidize fuel and keeping water rates and electricity rates at a minimum. So that is something people don't even recognize is happening because they were not saddled with that increase. We are absorbing that increase, and that measure continues even under this budget. So we're cushioning a lot of the effects of inflation and rise in cost of living. And sometimes I think people don't even recognize that it is happening because they were never burdened with it in the first place. So I know there can be a lot of negative comments on social media and so on, and people can get sucked into that. But they have to pay attention to what is happening overall, what the macro objectives are, what the vision is. And I think we've been very vocal about what the vision is and the path that we are traveling over these 5 years. And people can see that we are staying the course to ensuring that we achieve those objectives.
Most definitely, Minister. And I know being at the helm of the Housing Ministry that has a massive infrastructure program that you will continue to champion the work we're doing in terms of holistically pushing the growth of Guyana in terms of, as you mentioned, cutting travel time significantly will ultimately improve productivity in workplaces and what we put out as a country. Let's take a look at the water sector, for which you have oversight as well. If we look at the figures, you would see there was a dramatic increase in the allocation this year from $17 to $22.5 billion. What does this mean for hinterland communities, for the family that is complaining on Facebook about red water coming through the taps, it's staining their clothes when they're washing? What does this mean for the public?
When I finished speaking just now, I thought, shoot, I didn't even talk about our water treatment plant. So I'm very glad, very happy that you asked that question. So we've been very comprehensive with our plans for the water sector. And I've been speaking at length about this, but people have different ways of receiving this information. So as much as possible, we try to speak about what the plan is for GWI, so people can know that the relief is coming. So we know on the East Bank, we know in Region 2, in places like Charity and so on, the quality is very poor. And when we came into government, we immediately drafted a 5-year strategic plan for GWI. This included the drilling of new wells for access in the hinterland so that we can improve access there, and similarly on the coastland so that we can improve access, but more importantly on the coastland to improve access to treated water. And so this plan includes about three components. One is the construction of 13 water treatment plants. These are large water treatment plants, 7 of which have already commenced construction. So that was awarded last year, and those are under construction and should be completed around June of this year. I think that is the completion date for those 7 water treatment plants. Additionally, as we speak, there is a tender out for 5 water treatment plants. So these are 5 additional large water treatment plants. And then we will have another one going out later on this year. That will be around, they will be using the surface water from the Hope Canal to surface the Mahaica area. So that's one component. The second component is 10 smaller water treatment plants, where we will be utilizing inline filters for the delivery of treated water. And thirdly, the upgrading of our distribution and transmission mains. Now, Janelle, these projects are extremely expensive. A treatment plant costs about $1 billion. So it's not only expensive, it's very technical. And we have some local companies and we have foreign companies who are executing these works. And they take a lot of time as well. So it's a multi-year project. Now, these plants are under completion, under construction, so people can follow the progress on our Facebook. We keep updating them that on the progress of the construction. At the end of all of this, we will see treated water coverage improve on the coastline from 52% to 90%. So the vast majority of the people who are receiving discolored water now, or water with high iron content, will not be receiving that quality of water at the end of construction or at the completion of these 13 water treatment plants, which will be before 2025. So I know it seems like they've been living a long time with this poor quality of water, and sometimes they get frustrated. But I want people to know that this is a permanent solution that we have to this problem. So once this happens and their community starts to receive treated water, they will no longer have that problem. It's taking a long time to implement, but now that we have the resources, and we didn't have the resources before, as I was telling you, it's very, very expensive. And under the previous government, they were using a chemical to treat water, which was a temporary solution. This is a permanent solution, where once this is completed, that problem will go away. The other thing is the consistency of water. So receiving water every time you turn on the tap. Now this is linked largely to stable power supply as well. And you know we get a lot of backlash whenever our pump stations go down if there is a blackout. Now once we are able by 2025 to stabilize power generation, our treatment plants and our pump stations will be stabilized as well, so that water remains in the mains permanently. Every time you turn on the tap, there will be water there. We're also investing in upgrading and improving our infrastructure network. That's our mains, our transmission and distribution mains, because they're aged over 100 years old, and so it's very porous. We get a lot of leaks, and this reduces the quality of water as well. So once this project, and you see that a lot in Georgetown, so when people see the roads dug up in Georgetown, that's what GWI is doing. We're upgrading those large transmission mains and ensuring that it can withstand the PSI when we turn on our pumps there at Shelter Belt, so that their water pressure can increase as well. So it's a comprehensive approach, a comprehensive strategic plan, going back to, as you said, a bigger vision that we have that takes careful and strategic planning to ensure that these objectives are met within our first term in government.
Minister, you've spoken extensively about the coastline, but let me take you back to a place that I know you have a soft spot in your heart for, the hinterland. If I recall, one of your first assignments as minister was in Region 8, I believe.
Mhm.
I know you have a place in your heart for hinterland regions, and this administration has spoken a lot about strengthening village economies. We have a robust water program in the hinterland, which also translate into jobs for villagers in these communities. Could you speak a little on that?
So, yes, there's always so much to talk about. Um, the hinterland, I spent a lot of time in the hinterland during the campaign, and I saw the plight of the people, and I think that's why it has remained with me. And sometimes I see their faces at night when I know that they're waiting on us and counting on us and believing that we can deliver for them. Now, the hinterland has seen significant improvement from 2020 to now. And so I'm very pleased with the progress that we're making in hinterland communities. We have a very dedicated team that is in charge of the hinterland over at GWI. And Janelle, when we go into these communities and you drill a well and complete the network so that people now have water directly to their homes or huts, depending on which community you go to, they can just step out of their home and there's a pipe right there for them. They cry tears of joy because their life now is changed so dramatically. They no longer have to walk long distances to fetch water, spending a lot of time dedicated to doing that as opposed to time utilizing on the farm or more productive activity or with their families. So it has a significant impact. It's very dramatic, the change that takes place in Amerindian villages across our country. We also work a lot in collaboration, as you mentioned, creating jobs with the village community there. So sometimes we source materials from communities, but mostly we source labor. So once the well is drilled, which is a technical part of the process, once that is done, the contractors usually, through a collaboration we have with the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Amerindian Affairs, we utilize local labor in the communities to with the transmission mains so that they can take the pipes to the homes. So this is local labor that is utilized, pumping money back into the economy, giving villagers work, and then they also get a sense of pride and ownership of the work that was done there. So everybody feels a part of the process. So that's very important when we work like that. We're very happy and very proud of the collaboration with the village community there. So we've seen in the last 3 years the access to water in the hinterland improve from 46% in 2020 to about 86% at the end of 2023. So that is a significant jump, a significant improvement in access to water. Our goal in the hinterland regions is to achieve 100% access to water by 2025. So this year we are drilling another about 40 wells this year again in regions 1, 7, 8, and 9 so that we can further improve access to water in the hinterland communities. So we are investing directly in these communities to bring relief to them and to ensure that they have access to clean water just like the people on the coastline. So in the housing sector, in the water sector, and in all of the sectors across government, we are ensuring that there is inclusiveness and that when we distribute resources, it is being done in an equitable way. So nobody is disadvantaged, not people who live on the coastline or people who live on the hinterland or people of a certain race or political affiliation. Everybody is benefiting from these infrastructure projects equitably.
Thank you very much, Minister. We've certainly touched on a lot today. And before we go, is there anything else you would want to share with the viewing public on Budget 2024?
Yeah, I want people to do an honest assessment for themselves. I think I can say without fear of contradiction that we have been consistent in what we've been saying to the public from day one. We have been consistent, and anybody who's been listening, paying attention, will know that we have never wavered. We are not a government that wavers or backs down when there is a challenge. That's why we can say to people, we have to stay the course. We presented a plan to you in 2020 for which you elected us on, and now it is our obligation and our responsibility to ensure that we fulfill those commitments. And budget after budget, year after year, we have been demonstrating in a real way that we are making investments and implementing what we promised to do in 2020. We've been implementing those throughout the past 3 years, unwavering in our commitment to the promises we made to the people. So people can criticize us, but you have to examine whether the criticism is justified or not. And I can tell you that many times it is unjustified. And we're going to go to Parliament next week to debate this budget, and I can guarantee you that the budget, the quality of the debate from the other side will be slanderous, it will be defamatory, libelous, but you have immunity in the Parliament. So people can come there from the opposition and they can say whatever they please, and they're protected by that safe space that is the floor of the House, and say whatever they feel like saying, whether it's truth or not truth, because you can't say lie in Parliament, but it will be blatant lies. And people at home who will be watching those debates need to make an honest assessment for themselves. What did the PPP say they were going to do when they came into government? Have they done it? And I have no fear in knowing what that scorecard will be, because people know that we have been fulfilling our commitments. So we have nothing to fear going to Parliament. We'll stick to the subject, we'll talk about the budget, and ultimately people want at home, they want to know, how does this budget impact my life, which is what we've been talking about for maybe the past half hour or more. So that's what people want to know. How will this translate to improving my life? Not who did what in the other side, from the other side, but looking at how overall the allocations in this budget touches the lives of every single person across this country. And I believe if people do an honest assessment of that, they will come to the realization that we have a plan and that we have been implementing that plan for their benefit.
Well, once again, Minister Susan Rodrigues, Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, I'd like to thank you for having this conversation with me on Budget in Focus. And to
pleasure.
your viewers, thank you for having us in your homes. Until next time, goodbye.